The Ashes are well and truly alive after England defeated Australia by 3 wickets at Headingley on Sunday to keep the tourists at bay in their attempt to take an unassailable 3-0 lead and win their first Ashes series on English soil in 22 years. While Ben Stokes' team still faces a difficult task to prevent Australia from taking the historic urn, the manner in which they won inside 4 days has raised hopes from the home team's fans, but also brought forth the question: do England need to rely on their aggressive Bazball approach, or should they temper it in a bid to become the second team after Don Bradman's Australia in 1936-37 to win the Ashes from 0-2 down? England's batting as a whole again disappointed at Leeds, but it can be argued that without Stokes' 80 in the first innings, the hosts would have been out of the match much earlier. The dismissals of Joe Root and Jonny Bairstow on the final day underlined why an aggressive approach can backfire. And had it not been for Harry Brook and Chris Wook's far more sensible batting, England could have been down 0-3. On the other hand, the aggression that Mark Wood in his first match of the series brought to the bowling is something England sorely lacked at Edgbaston and Lord's. So, do England stick with Bazball at Old Trafford despite some basic errors and Bairstow's slopping wicket-keeping and batting? Time will tell, but perhaps these 9 days between test matches will offer Stokes and Brendan McCullum the chance to reflect on their methods. Well, Ben Stokes has already clarified, Jamie, that they will stick with their okay, it looks like Jamie is gone, but Ben Stokes has already clarified that he's going to stick with that approach, and I don't see them changing it just yet. They've put too much of their time, energy, efforts into creating this whole approach. I don't think they'll go away from it. But having said that, how good was that test match and the finish to it and the way Mark Wood won that game? It was, once again, this Ashes has been absolutely brilliant, and Test cricket in England is incredible. To see the crowds there, and thankfully there was nothing wrong that happened after all that we were expecting after the Lord's incident. This was a fantastic match yet again.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But let's look at it this way. Everything was going England's favour. They won the toss, the climatic conditions were good, the pitch was helpful, they had the bowlers. The bowlers, especially those two fast bowlers that they included this time, they had the bowlers. And if they didn't win here, I don't think they would have won at all. But though they struggled, they struggled big time. And I think they batted very, very sensibly. That Bazball, I think they just left it on the side and decided to do some serious cricket, which is what they did in the second innings. They just didn't go hammer and tongs. If at all, I think it was Travis Head who played the Bazball aspect of it, not the English batsman, except maybe for Ben Stokes for a while. But I think the rest of them batted very, very sensibly. You didn't see Crawley, getting off to 4s and 6s or trying to whack the leather off the ball. You didn't have that. So I think their approach was much, much better. And they played to the situation, which was most important, especially when Woakes was batting. You saw that. He played brilliantly to the situation. So did Wood to the situation again. And of course, their main batsman, Brooks, he batted brilliantly. If you look at the innings that Brooks played earlier and compare it with what he played this time, I mean, there was a lot of maturity the way he played this time, and he didn't try to keep hitting. And I think England settled down very quickly. They realized that Bazball was not the way to go, and they needed to adapt. And I think the Australians were taken aback the way the English handled, especially when they spread the field and the English batsmen are not hitting, rather concentrating on singles and twos. I think that pushed the Australians back quite a bit. They didn't expect that. They thought they'll go for it. They didn't go for it. They were just pushing it into singles and twos. And I think that was the right strategy. If your opponent adopts a different strategy, you also have to play accordingly. And that's what England did this time. And I'm very glad they did it, because that's given fresh lease to this Ashes series.
Absolutely. Now, this is what Sunil Gavaskar has had to say about Bazball. He's not too impressed. and there are many who are not too impressed with this Bazball approach. He says, as for Bazball, forget it. It happened against lesser quality bowling, but against a top-class Australian attack, it's back to good old grinding batting and not T20 shots. And Jamie, I think in this match and just the way England have played, even in the last two games, it's very clear that there's too much talk around Bazball, and maybe they need to temper it down, because at the end of the day, the way they won was anything but Bazball.
I'll just beg to differ with Mr. Sunil Gavaskar. I don't know how much he watched. Bazball started against South Africa, which had the best pace, the fastest pace bowling attack of that time. They were down 1-0, having lost a test match. They had to bounce back. It came against Rabada, Nokia, all these guys. Then it came in New Zealand against a very good New Zealand pace attack, and now it's not working. So I wouldn't entirely agree with that.